The Galactic Council had always underestimated humanity. To them, humans were a young, reckless species, bold, yes, but ultimately insignificant in the grand scale of interstellar politics. The mighty Azari Empire, the coldly efficient Varic Dominion, and the enigmatic Selrai Collective had been the dominant forces of the galaxy for centuries, treating Earth as little more than a footnote in history. But that was about to change. The warning came in the form of a desperate transmission from the border colonies. The Draknir, an ancient species of biomechanical warlords, had returned from the void after millennia in exile. They swept across entire star systems like an unstoppable force, consuming resources and enslaving entire populations. The Galactic Council did what they always did: deliberated, debated, and stalled. They feared the Draknir but feared direct conflict even more. The Council's solution? Surrender a portion of the galaxy to the invaders in the hope of pacifying them. But humanity? Humanity had never been good at surrendering. When Earth received the distress calls from the fringe colonies, there was no hesitation. The United Terran Defense Force, UTDF, was mobilized, led by Supreme Commander Elias Carter, a seasoned war strategist known for his unconventional thinking. The first battle would be fought in the Orion Expanse, where dozens of human settlements were under siege. Fleet Admiral Rachel Vasquez, commanding the 3rd Terran Armada, arrived in the Orion Expanse just in time to witness a massacre. The Draknir fleet, a twisted amalgamation of living metal and energy-based weaponry, had reduced entire planets to molten wastelands. The sight ignited a fury in humanity unlike anything seen before. Vasquez sent a single transmission to the Council: "If you won't act, we will." And with that, humanity entered the war, alone. The first engagement was brutal. The Draknir ships, vastly superior in firepower and technology, shredded the outer perimeter defenses. Terran warships, outgunned and outmatched, relied on sheer ingenuity and reckless bravery to hold the line. The new experimental railgun batteries on the UTS Valkyrie proved devastating, ripping through enemy hulls with kinetic energy alone. Commander Adrian Kane, an ace pilot with a reputation for defying death, led a squadron of Hellfire-class interceptors in a daring raid against the Draknir flagship. Outnumbered 5-1, Kane's squadron wove through the enemy formation with impossible precision, exploiting blind spots in the enemy's targeting systems. His team landed a direct hit on the Draknir flagship's primary power core, forcing the behemoth to retreat. The first battle was won, but at a steep cost. The 3rd Armada had suffered heavy losses, and the Council, furious at humanity's defiance, declared the UTDF's actions unauthorized aggression. But humanity did not care for politics. The war had begun. And humanity would not back down. News of humanity's stand against the Draknir spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Some species admired their courage, others dismissed their actions as suicidal. But one thing was certain: Earth was now in open defiance of the Galactic Council's cowardly appeasement strategy. The Council's response was swift and predictable: sanctions, trade embargoes, and a formal declaration condemning humanity's reckless endangerment of galactic peace. None of it mattered. Humanity had already committed to the fight, and there was no turning back. The Second Battle of Orion. The Draknir, enraged by their unexpected defeat, returned to the Orion Expanse with overwhelming force. This time, their armada was 3 times larger, their weapons calibrated to counter human tactics. They did not intend to merely conquer, this was an extermination. Fleet Admiral Vasquez knew they couldn't fight a conventional battle. Human forces were too depleted from the first engagement. Instead, she turned to a desperate strategy: asymmetric warfare. Deploying the Harbinger Protocol, humanity executed a series of precision strikes on key Draknir supply lines. Stealth corvettes like the UTS Ghostrunner infiltrated deep into enemy space, sabotaging fuel depots and communication hubs. Meanwhile, Commander Adrian Kane and his elite Hellfire squadron led a daring attack on the Draknir flagship Zalzarik, targeting its energy conduits in a high-speed assault through the enemy's tight defensive net. Kane's squadron paid the price. Half his pilots were lost before they even reached their target. but those who remained executed their mission flawlessly, planting high-yield antimatter charges along the flagship's spinal cannon. The resulting explosion tore through the enemy's command structure, throwing the Draknir into disarray. A victory with heavy costs. The battle was won, but the celebrations were muted. The Third Armada had suffered catastrophic losses, and humanity now had a brutal realization: this war was not going to be won through sheer force. They were fighting an enemy older, stronger, and more advanced than them. Every victory would be bought with blood. The Galactic Council, seeing that humanity had actually stalled the Draknir's advance, begrudgingly acknowledged their efforts but still refused to provide aid. Instead, they issued an ultimatum: stand down and accept Council oversight, or be permanently exiled from interstellar diplomacy. Supreme Commander Elias Carter's response was simple: the only oversight we need is the stars above us. With those words, humanity cemented its role as the galaxy's rogue defenders. Alone, outnumbered, but unyielding, they prepared for the next phase of the war, one that would take them deep into the heart of enemy territory. The fight for survival had only just begun. The Oran expanse had been defended, but humanity knew the Draknir would return in even greater numbers. Waiting for the next wave was suicide. Supreme Commander Elias Carter made the call: take the fight to the enemy. For the first time in history, humanity would launch an offensive into Draknir territory. Operation Shadow Spear. Reconnaissance reports suggested the Draknir were staging their next invasion from a fortress world known as Veilrith, a planet-sized war factory bristling with defenses. Intelligence was scarce. The Draknir had never been infiltrated before. Their technology was a nightmarish fusion of biology and machine, their ships grown rather than built. Humanity's best and brightest would be sent on a mission no other species would dare attempt. A strike force was assembled. Commander Adrian Kane, leading a covert Hellfire squadron. Captain Daria Volkov, a cyber warfare specialist with expertise in alien systems. Lieutenant Isaac Reaper Sato, a former Black Ops operative skilled in sabotage. Dr. Evelyn Roth, a xenobiologist determined to uncover the secrets of the Draknir's evolution. Their objective was twofold: cripple Veilrith's shipyards and retrieve any intelligence on the Draknir's command hierarchy. A mission doomed from the start. The UTDF's experimental stealth frigate, the UTS Nightfall, transported the strike team to the edge of Draknir space. Every other species feared setting foot beyond this border. Humanity simply called it Thursday. The infiltration was brutal. Veilrith's defenses were unlike anything the team had encountered before: organic turrets that screamed as they fired, living walls that pulsed with an eerie, flesh-like texture, and patrols of towering Draknir enforcers, their bodies encased in self-repairing chitin armor. Using advanced chameleon tech armor and synchronized neural implants, the team moved undetected through the fortress, placing EMP charges along key power conduits. Volkov worked to hack into the Draknir mainframe, but their systems were more alive than mechanical, resisting intrusion like a sentient organism. Then, the team made a horrifying discovery. Captured humans, soldiers, civilians, even children, were encased in grotesque cocoons, their bodies partially fused with Draknir machinery. Dr. Roth's analysis confirmed the worst: the Draknir were not merely conquerors. They were assimilators, forcibly integrating their victims into their war machine. Kane made a snap decision: they couldn't just complete the mission. They had to rescue every human they could. The Great Escape. The moment they freed the captives, the fortress came alive. Alarms shrieked in frequencies that burrowed into the mind, and thousands of Draknir warriors descended upon them. The Nightfall, waiting in low orbit, swooped in for emergency extraction, dodging organic spore missiles and flesh-seeking projectiles. Reaper Sato, covering the team's escape, engaged a Draknir warlord in brutal close combat. He managed to take the behemoth down, but not before suffering a mortal wound. With his last breath, he activated the detonation sequence on the planted EMP charges. As the team and the rescued captives raced aboard the Nightfall, the fortress convulsed like a wounded beast. Explosions rippled through its structure, shutting down key shipyards and delaying the Draknir war effort. But humanity had made an enemy unlike any before. As the Nightfall jumped into slip space, a single transmission was intercepted from Veilrith. The flesh things defy us. The flesh things must be consumed. The Draknir had never considered humanity a true threat before. Now, they were coming. And they would not stop until humanity was erased. The destruction of Veilrith's shipyards sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Humanity had done the impossible. Not only had they struck deep into Draknir territory, but they had also escaped with living proof of the enemy's horrific assimilation process. The Galactic Council could no longer ignore the truth. Their appeasement strategy had failed. The Draknir weren't conquerors looking for territory, they were a plague, consuming everything in their path. But while the politicians debated, humanity prepared. Fortress Earth. With the Draknir now fully committed to humanity's destruction, Supreme Commander Elias Carter enacted Project Aegis, a full-scale militarization of the Sol system. Every Terran warship was recalled for refitting, planetary defenses were reinforced, and the entire human population was mobilized for war. The Mars shipyards, the largest orbital production facility in human history, worked non-stop, churning out fleets of new warships equipped with the latest advancements, reverse-engineered Draknir armor plating, adaptive AI combat systems, and experimental energy weapons designed to disrupt the enemy's organic hulls. But Earth wasn't the only battleground. The Draknir invasion begins. The first attack came at Epsilon Eridani, one of humanity's oldest extrasolar colonies. Draknir dreadnoughts darkened the sky, their massive, chitinous hulls blotting out the sun. Swarms of biomechanical fighters descended like locusts, their weapons reducing entire cities to molten slag. The 5th Terran Fleet, led by Admiral Jonah Briggs, was stationed in the system. Outnumbered and outgunned, Briggs had only one goal: buy enough time for the civilians to evacuate. For 7 straight hours, the 5th Fleet fought against impossible odds. Battleships engaged in brutal point-blank exchanges with Draknir behemoths, their railguns hammering into enemy hulls with devastating force. Kane's Hellfire Squadron launched precision strikes against key enemy command ships, maneuvering through swarms of enemy fighters with lethal efficiency. But it wasn't enough. One by one, the Terran ships fell. The TSV Resolute was torn apart by organic tendrils that latched onto its hull. The Iron Rain detonated its reactor in a desperate last-stand maneuver, taking down an enemy capital ship with it. In the end, the system was lost. The war turns personal. Among the billions lost on Epsilon Eridani were Kane's parents, civilians caught in the destruction. For the first time in his career, the ace pilot felt something he never had before: pure, undiluted rage. "You want to consume us?" Kane growled, staring at the hollow display of the burning colony. "Then we'll burn you first." Earth mourned, but it did not break. Humanity had suffered losses before, and every time, they had come back stronger. The fall of Epsilon Eridani only proved one thing: humanity could not afford to be defensive anymore. Carter gathered the surviving fleet commanders, strategists, and scientists. It was time for humanity's boldest move yet. If they couldn't stop the Draknir with brute force, they would strike at the heart of the enemy itself. The time for defense was over. It was time to end the war. The loss of Epsilon Eridani shook humanity to its core. Billions dead. Entire fleets shattered. But humanity was done bleeding. Supreme Commander Elias Carter stood before his war council, eyes burning with resolve. "We've been fighting on the defensive," he said. "That ends now. If we want to survive, we need to cut the head off the snake." It was a gamble, but it was the only option left. Humanity would take the fight directly to the Draknir homeworld, a place no living being outside their species had ever seen and survived. The mission was called Operation Phoenix, and it would be the most dangerous undertaking in human history. The plan. Using intelligence gathered from the raid on Veilrith, cyber warfare specialist Captain Daria Volkov had pinpointed the probable location of the Draknir's central command structure, a planet-sized biological construct known as Nexus Prime. Nexus Prime wasn't just a homeworld. It was the brain of the Draknir war machine, the central hub from which all their forces were controlled. If humanity could destroy it, the entire Draknir swarm might collapse. The plan had 3 key objectives. 1. A decoy assault. Admiral Rachel Vasquez and the bulk of the Terran fleet would launch a massive false invasion along the Draknir's outer territories, drawing their forces away from Nexus Prime. 2. Infiltration. A covert strike team, led by Commander Adrian Kane, would slip past the front lines using an experimental cloaked dropship, infiltrate Nexus Prime, and plant a quantum destabilizer at the planet's core. 3. Extraction and detonation. The team would have exactly 1 hour to escape before the destabilizer triggered a cascading chain reaction, reducing the Draknir stronghold to cosmic dust. It was an insane plan. The Council called it suicide. Humanity called it Tuesday. The final infiltration. The moment the decoy assault began, the Draknir fleets scrambled to defend their outposts. The ruse worked. Most of their warships moved away from Nexus Prime, giving Kane's infiltration team a narrow window. Piloting the stealth dropship Shadow Lance, Kane, Volkov, Dr. Evelyn Roth, and a squad of elite Terran operatives descended onto Nexus Prime's nightmarish surface. It was a living world, its ground pulsating like muscle tissue, its sky filled with writhing tendrils reaching for the stars. Moving quickly, Volkov hacked into the organic network, using cybernetic implants to override the bioorganic defenses. Meanwhile, Kane's team carved a bloody path through Draknir Guardians, towering monstrosities with blade-like limbs and regenerating armor. As they reached the core, Dr. Roth made a chilling discovery. The Nexus wasn't just a control hub. It was alive. The Draknir didn't just operate from Nexus Prime, they were grown from it. The entire species was a hive mind linked to this single, pulsating consciousness. Destroying it wouldn't just collapse their war machine. It would be genocide. For a brief moment, the team hesitated. Then Kane thought of Epsilon Eridani. Of the billions of innocent lives the Draknir had butchered, assimilated, and consumed. No mercy. With a single command, Volkov activated the destabilizer. The hourglass runs out. Alarms screamed across the planet. The Nexus had become aware of the threat, and the Draknir poured out in the thousands. Kane's team sprinted back to the Shadow Lance, fighting off relentless waves of attackers. As they reached the ship, a massive Draknir warlord, 3 stories tall, its body covered in shifting metallic plates, blocked their path. It spoke in a voice that wasn't sound but raw thought, drilling into their minds. You think you are predators, but you are prey. We will consume your flesh. We will become you. Kane, bleeding from multiple wounds, simply raised his plasma rifle and fired. Choke on it. With a final, desperate push, the team boarded the Shadow Lance, blasting off just as the destabilizer triggered. From orbit, they watched the impossible. Nexus Prime didn't just explode. It collapsed inward, like a dying star. The Draknir fleet, still linked to their hive mind, spasmed in chaos as their central intelligence was erased from existence. The war was over. But humanity had just rewritten the rules of the galaxy. And everyone was watching. The moment Nexus Prime collapsed, the galaxy felt it. Across every battlefield, Draknir warships spasmed in confusion, their pilots severed from the hive mind. Some simply shut down, their biological systems failing without their central command. Others went berserk, attacking anything in sight before finally self-destructing. Humanity had done the impossible. The war was over. Or so they thought. #### the aftermath of annihilation. As the Shadow Lance made its triumphant return to Earth, Supreme Commander Elias Carter broadcasted a message across every known frequency. The Draknir are no more. The war is won. Humanity stands. For the first time in recorded history, the Galactic Council, those same species who had abandoned humanity, stood in awe. The unthinkable had happened. A young, upstart race had single-handedly wiped out a galactic super-predator. But the victory was not without consequence. As scientists examined the remnants of Nexus Prime, an unsettling truth emerged, not all Draknir had perished Some splinter cells, disconnected from the hive mind before its collapse, had survived. Leaderless, they were now feral, operating on instinct alone. Some went dormant, hiding in the void between stars. Others became rabid marauders, attacking indiscriminately. Humanity hadn't ended the threat. They had turned the Draknir into something even more dangerous, unpredictable, The Council's response. Despite their past cowardice, the Galactic Council could no longer deny humanity's power. For centuries, the Council had feared the Draknir as an unstoppable force of nature. Now, they feared humanity even more. If a species could rise from nothing and obliterate a galactic apex predator, what could they do to the rest of the galaxy? The Council convened in an emergency session. Some species, like the warrior-like Torgani, offered an alliance recognizing humanity's strength. Others, like the insidious Zelvari, saw them as a ticking time bomb and began plotting containment measures. Whispers spread of a new crisis, not one of war, but of galactic politics. Would humanity be welcomed as heroes, or feared as monsters? The homecoming. On Earth, the returning fleet was met with a hero's welcome. Parades, celebrations, and monuments were erected in honor of the fallen. The names of those who had sacrificed everything, like Lieutenant Isaac Reaper Sato, were etched into history. But for those who had fought on the front lines, there was no celebration. Commander Adrian Kane, once humanity's ace pilot, now bore the scars of war. He had watched his friends die, seen entire worlds burn, and taken part in a genocide. Late at night, he wondered. Had they truly won? Or had they simply proven they were just as monstrous as the enemy? Dr. Evelyn Roth, the xenobiologist, struggled with the implications of what they had done. The Draknir were a nightmare, but had humanity's victory set a dangerous precedent? If they could destroy one apex predator, would another species try to stop humanity before they grew even stronger? The price of power. 2 weeks after the war's end, Carter received an encrypted transmission. It was from a species the Council refused to acknowledge, the Eldari, a race of ancient scholars who had long observed the galaxy from the shadows. Their message was brief. You have proven your strength. But beware, there are greater horrors in this universe than the Draknir. And now, they know you exist. Carter stared at the message, his jaw tightening. Humanity had risen. They had crushed the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. But in doing so, they had drawn new eyes. And somewhere, in the uncharted depths of space, something else had begun to stir. The galaxy had changed. The Draknir, once thought invincible, were now a fading memory. The Galactic Council, once dismissive of humanity, now feared and respected them in equal measure. The whispers of new alliances and secret plots against humanity spread like wildfire. But none of that mattered to Supreme Commander Elias Carter. His focus was on the message from the Eldari, a warning that haunted his every thought. There are greater horrors in this universe than the Draknir. And now, they know you exist. Humanity had thought the war was over. It was just the beginning. The void beckons. Deep in the uncharted edges of the Orion Arm, something moved. Long-range probes, launched to scout for remnants of the Draknir, began vanishing, their signals abruptly cut. Then, an automated mining outpost near the Theta Scorpii system detected an anomaly. A single transmission came through before the station went dark. It wasn't a distress signal. It wasn't a warning. It was a sound, an otherworldly hum, so deep it resonated in the bones, like the growl of an ancient predator waking from slumber. Humanity had heard that hum once before. On the battlefield. Before the Draknir attacked. A new breed of enemy. Commander Adrian Kane was the first to see the classified scans from Theta Scorpii. At first, he thought they were debris. Then, he realized the truth. The Draknir weren't dead. Not all of them. The survivors, those who had broken free from the hive mind before Nexus Prime collapsed, had evolved. No longer bound to a singular intelligence, they had grown into something worse, a fractured, feral race of apex predators, each adapting on its own, learning, changing. One of the scans showed a single, massive shape, larger than any ship humanity had ever encountered. It wasn't just a warship. It was a living dreadnought, its biometallic hull pulsing like an artificial heart. And it was coming. ### the Titanborn War. Carter convened with the War Council. There was no time for hesitation. Humanity had to strike first. Before, the Draknir were a hive, reliant on a queen. Now, they were titans, each an independent warlord. If even one of them was allowed to grow unchecked, it could rival entire armadas. It was a race against extinction. ### humanity's last gambit. The plan was dubbed Operation Titanfall. Humanity would hunt the surviving Draknir, tracking them across the void and wiping them out before they could rise again. The first target was the entity from Theta Scorpii, codenamed Leviathan. Admiral Rachel Vasquez assembled a strike fleet, including Kane's Hellfire Squadron, Captain Daria Volkov's cyber warfare specialists, and a new experimental warship, the UTS Apotheosis, the largest dreadnought ever constructed by human hands. With weapons designed specifically to disrupt the Draknir's new adaptive biology, humanity's fleet would put its greatest strength to the test once again. The ability to evolve faster than its enemies. As the fleet approached Theta Scorpii, Kane stood on the bridge, staring at the approaching anomaly. Then, the stars themselves seemed to shift. A colossal shape emerged from the void, its surface a writhing mass of shifting metallic plates, each the size of a city. Red, pulsating eyes opened along its body, scanning the approaching fleet with intelligent, ancient hunger. The Draknir had changed. And this one was waiting for them. ### the cycle continues. Across the galaxy, the news of humanity's impending battle spread. Some species cheered, knowing the warriors of Earth would once again do the impossible. Others watched with trepidation, wondering if humanity's victory against the Titans would only make them even more dangerous. In the depths of space, beyond even human knowledge, the Elderly observed in silence. They had seen this before. A young race, desperate to survive, challenging creatures far beyond their understanding. Most were crushed. Some endured. But only one species had ever conquered the cycle of extinction. The Elderly had hoped humanity might be different. Now, as the first Titanborn War began, they realized the truth. Humanity wasn't different. Humanity was the next step. And the universe had just learned what happens when a race refuses to die. The war was not over. It had only just begun.